Hi, everybody. We are back again, and we are going to do another quick lecture. This one will be lecture number 5. I'm going to share my screen here, and we are going to talk about marketing strategy. So the marketing strategy is important. You know, it is one of the top 20 reasons that startup companies fail is that they don't really have everything planned out. So as we move forward in your subscription boxes, really we're working toward at the end of the class, the final project is going to be a marketing strategy for this subscription box that you've come up with. So it is quite important to new businesses particularly, but even businesses that have been around a long time, they rely on their marketing strategy. It's really important to understand how the strategy works. It is strategy, then it's tactics. So strategy is what we want to do. Tactics is how we are going to get it done. And a lot of times this is a point of confusion. So I wanted to clarify that. So the strategy identifies where we're going to compete. It's going to tell us what markets we're going to pursue, who we're going to pursue, what target market, that's our customers, and then what actions, those are the tactics that we take to complete that strategy. The strategy describes our unique value. So as I've said numerous times, and I will continue to probably say in every lecture, it is the marketer's job to create value for those consumers. We make them believe that our products are valuable to them, and they want to come back over and over and over again and purchase the product. So when we develop a strategy, we really need to think about what's unique about our product or service. What is that point of differentiation? You'll hear me say that over and over again. That will create that value. Okay. If it's different than someone else, then in the last lecture, I said, hey, I have a pen here. What makes it different? If that pen has a clock in it, or that pen has refillable ink, those are all kind of points of differentiation. So strategy also explains how we are going to create that unique value, right? We've got these goals to sell, all of these items. If I've got a widget, that kind of fictional item, if I've got a widget, here's my goal is to sell 1 million widgets in the next year. And then my strategy is this is what we're going to do. And then this is how we're going to get it done, each of those little pieces. So the strategy does explain the company's assets. It's going to let you create that unique proposition. It's going to reinforce what the company's goals are. So that is what we're talking about when we say strategy. The strategy will determine how we're going to sustain it. We call that a sustainable competitive advantage. You won't see that term here, but that's really what we're talking about. As you get further into marketing classes or into your business classes or even an MBA, you're going to see that sustainable competitive advantage. Make sure that we can stay alive, our business can stay alive. So one of the things that we kind of think of here is, how are our competitors playing into this? Are they trying to eliminate our advantage? When we did that SWOT analysis, we understood that our competitors have opportunities and strengths and weaknesses. How do we compete against the strengths and opportunities? And how do we leverage the fact that we are better in the areas that they have weaknesses or threats, and position ourselves so that we have that competitive advantage? The mission statement. I love this particular graph, and I would highly recommend looking at it over and over and over again, because it definitely gives you a sense of how we're going to go down and create the strategy and how everything fits together. So if we think about the mission statement, this explains why the organization exists. If I am a widget manufacturer, then I know that I exist to provide widgets to assist in the, whatever their need is for that widget for these different types of consumers. That's my mission statement. And I definitely encourage you to go out and look at the mission statements of different companies. So the objectives of this need to be, they need to be specific, measurable, and have a time frame. It's really important that we think through SMART goals. They must be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So we'll get into SMART goals a little bit later on, but that's what we're talking about. The marketing planning process. We have this mission. Then we look at a situation analysis. We look at what is the need, as we talked about in the last lecture, we talked about that need, that ability to fulfill that need with the right prices. And we go down, and as we start to look through it, then we can fill that in with our 4Ps. And of course, our pièce de résistance, the main thing, the thing that is really important, that engine, that target market, that customer. So this is a real nice linear way of looking at that. And I know right about now, everybody's like, whoo, I'm so confused. There's so much stuff. Don't be. We're going to take it step by step by step. So now we're talking about, our implementation and our budget. In order to have a strategy, we really have to know how much money we have to spend. If our tactics involve, advertising, promotion, and all these sort of things, we need to know, do we have enough money to spend? It's a bit like going out and shopping for a home and not having a budget. That's the reason why when you do go to purchase a home, they require you to have a pre-approval letter so they know, should we be looking at homes that are 100,000 or a million? There's a big range in there, and realtors do not want to waste their time taking people to homes that they cannot afford, because it's very difficult once you see $1 million home to then go back and want to buy the features that you're going to get and the size you're going to get in $100,000 home. So we need to really be realistic about our budget rather than just going out and saying we want to advertise in the Super Bowl. It may not be in our budget. The return on our marketing investment. We'll look at how to calculate this later on, but we want to know, did it work? That's ultimately what this means. Did it work? Did we make the kind of money that we wanted to make based on what we had to spend? So we'll talk again a little bit later on in the course about how we calculate that and what kind of numbers look good. So we're looking at this sort of strategic opportunity matrix, right? So we have new markets, we have current markets, one that we're currently in, and new markets. If we look at that y-axis, if we look at the x-axis, that horizontal axis, then we're looking at new and current products. So if I've got a current market, something I'm already competing in, and a current product, then I've got this market penetration strategy. How do I get into this a little bit more? Then I've got up here in the far left corner, we've got new markets, but with our current product set, that's a market development strategy. If I'm looking for, in the bottom right, if I look for our current markets, but with new products, that's a product development. I've got to come up with new products for that. If I'm looking at new markets and a new product, that's diversifying. We are going to make ourselves very different. We're going into new things. So we'll talk about those. Let's see here. So we have these 4 growth strategies. This is how we grow it. So when you talk about your subscription box, this is how you're going to think about one of these is going to be right for you. Market penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. Look back at that chart we just had to kind of see how they visually play out. What is a buyer persona? Well, this is our ideal customer. It's a story that we create, that we understand for a buyer persona. This is the kind of thing I love to do one-on-one. So if you are very interested in your subscription box, set up a Zoom with me. Happy to do so. We'll work through who your buyer is and what that persona looks like and why that's so important. It really does work very well one-on-one, because then we can look at your very specific situation and your subscription box specifically. To do it generically is a little bit tougher, but I will do so. I will make a video that is a bit more generic. So buyer persona, this is what a lot of times they look like. We want to know who they are. What type of TV do they watch? What kind of household income? Do they have a dog? Do they have a cat? Do they have any pets? Do they have children? What do they do in their spare time? All of that comes together so we know exactly how to reach and talk to the person that we want to buy our product or service. Customer relationship management. This is really kind of a database situation where we're collecting a lot of information, and then we're kind of seeing how we can piece together, what does that ideal customer look like over all the things that they've done and all the data that we've been able to collect. That's what we're doing with a CRM, a database, really. The SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is very important because it is going to help us determine, how our competitors are like what their behavior is relative to us and what kind of opportunities we have. So a SWOT analysis is a tool that allows us to analyze the strengths, S, weaknesses, W, opportunities, O, and threats of our competitors. We can do it against ourselves as well, but we are developing a new business with the subscription box. So it's a little bit different to be able to do it on ourselves when we don't have that data yet. Businesses use a SWOT analysis to determine what's working and what we can do and how we can create and maintain a position relative to our competitors. And it helps us prioritize those tactics that we talked about off of the strategy. Here's what the SWOT analysis matrix looks like. Typically, this is how people are going to do it. You can stack them down and type them in. There's no real hard and fast way. You just a lot of times will see them written like this. Here's an example of a SWOT analysis. I will let you in the lectures go through and kind of read through this. So I'm keeping this a little bit shorter, but don't overcomplicate it. Don't get too wordy. Make sure that you understand, and it's real high level objectives. Don't get too detailed. Don't get caught up in the minutia, as we would say. All right, completing a SWOT analysis is a really excellent way, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you do as you walk through your competitive analysis. What are the 4 components? Let's talk through them a bit more specifically. Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those are the 4 quadrants of the SWOT. That's what the SWOT stands for. So S is for strengths. This is a resource or capability the company has to gain competitive advantage. So think about what your competitors might do, particularly if you have direct competitors, because those are the ones that you're going to go head to head with. Your indirect, you're going to kind of slide by, but you won't be head to head with them. So kind of look through this and think through, what are the strengths of my competitors? Here are some questions to ask for determining strengths. What are the advantages? How do we make money? What do we excel at? What are we known for? What is the unique talent, and how are we different? That's a big question to ask when you think about SWOTs. Examples of strengths, and if you think about Apple, they introduced the colored iMac computer back in 1998. It was a major strength because they were the only company that allowed people to have these vivid colors. And so it seems silly that, coloring a monitor, a CPU would be a strength, but back then it definitely was. And then of course, other people started jumping in, and you can get colors in different computers in different colors nowadays. W is for a weakness. It's a disadvantage, a limitation. It's going to be able to, we got to think about how we can strengthen those areas. If it's our personal company or if it's a competitor, how do we take advantage of the fact that they have this weakness? All right. What are some of the questions when determining weaknesses? Well, some of them are, why do our customers dislike our products? Why are we doing poorly? What are we lacking? Why are we losing money? What complaints do we regularly get? And do we have outdated technology or things that need to be updated? Those are some of the questions. Examples of a weakness in action. Weakness for Coca-Cola could be that in relation to Pepsi, it has low product diversification. All right. Pepsi company also owns Frito-Lay. Many people don't know that. Coca-Cola is a beverage company. Pepsi considers itself, and Frito-Lay considers itself, a snack company. So it's a very different line of thinking in how they're approaching their respective customers and their product lines and product developments. Strengths and weaknesses are internal factors of a SWOT analysis, meaning the business can control these sort of things. So you need to think through that. O is for opportunities. This is a favorable situation that exists now or may exist in the future that we could take advantage of. What are trends in customers? If you knew well ahead of the pandemic that was going to happen, you certainly could have been poised to take advantage of that and know, hey, my customers are going to want to go curbside. They're not going to want to come inside. They're not going to have the opportunity. Maybe I can, jump into delivery, but those are things that you would have needed to kind of forecast ahead or pivot to very quickly. What are some of the questions for determining opportunities? How's the market changing? Definitely at the beginning of the pandemic, these were great questions. Did the opportunities pass? Are they still available? Can we meet the new needs of customers? What niches have our competitors missed? What are they not doing that we could be doing? Is there available talent? Could we change our packaging? Can we have an opportunity to make more money? These are all sorts of questions for determining opportunities. So an opportunity, an example of an opportunity would be at the beginning of the Go Green phase, Martha Stewart's company noticed a spike in the percentage of companies buying eco-friendly products. So they actually developed these line of products called Finally Green Means Clean. And they were able to capitalize on that change in consumer awareness and perception. T is for threats. It's an unfavorable situation. It could be new competitors. It could be bad publicity. It could be economic slumps. It could be a pandemic. All of these sort of ways are how businesses need to think about minimizing. And that is why in your marketing plans, you often need to create a contingency plan. What happens if something, goes awry? How are we going to stay competitive or just stay in business? Sometimes it's not even about being competitive. What are some of the questions to ask when determining threats? Who are our competitors? Do we have unreliable suppliers? What about our competition? What if we have a natural disaster or a pandemic? What happens if we have an employee, a labor strike? All of these sort of things. What happens if we have a labor shortage? We see a lot of companies right now in that very situation. So that is a question for determining threats. An example of a threat during COVID-19, restaurants were forced to shut down. As I previously said, many companies had to quickly pivot to this idea of delivery, drive-through, curbside, all these sort of things. And some of them, unfortunately, were just not able to pivot quick enough to be able to maintain their business. And we saw lots and lots of restaurants close during the pandemic, and still some that may, because they haven't been able to come through successfully. So opportunities and threats, these are external factors, okay? So we had internal factors with the strengths and weaknesses, and opportunities and threats are external. So we think about this internal external dichotomy here that we have in our SWOT analysis. And this is a graphical way of showing that. I love this. This is a very easy way of summarizing all that we just talked about in the last 6 slides. I know some of you are saying, well, she should have showed that first and just stop there. But different types of people, and they learn differently. So how do we conduct a SWOT analysis? Well, the benefits are that anybody can do it, right? We can really uncover issues that we hadn't thought about. We can get a lot of information in a really short kind of space, and it helps us gain a lot of insightful information. Who should do it? Well, anybody can do it, right? It can be done. A SWOT analysis can be done with respect to marketing. It can be done with respect to finance and accounting, or IT, or education, or whatever our departments are. Anybody can do it. Every level of employee can do it. And in fact, it's interesting to have different levels of employees doing it because of the different types of outcomes that you will get and the insights that you can achieve from having different people doing it. There's no set time frame. It can be very helpful when you have a limited amount of time as well, because it's very short. So first you need to establish what the goals are. Why are you doing it? And then narrow the scope, right? You want to narrow the scope for this because you are developing a new product. But if you're in a large company, you want to make sure it's very, very brief. We are introducing a new line of pizzas, and we want to know what our competitor is doing and what that area looks like. So maybe it's something very, very narrow. All right. Fill in each of these issues with the, starting with the strengths and the weaknesses, because they're internal. And then you can do research externally on information that is available or that you've learned from suppliers, etc. So you can do that. And then 4, use this to help create a plan of action. How do we hedge ourselves against our competitors, particularly with your subscription box? This is very, very important. So, there's this caution that we have, okay? It's not a right or wrong. We shouldn't consider it black and white. It's this or that, or it's yes or no. We're in or we're out. It's none of those things. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's very gray. And a lot of people have issues in being very honest about what their strengths or weaknesses is. So you've really got to understand that and be honest about that in order for it to be very successful. So this is an example of a SWOT analysis for college. I would definitely take a look at it. You guys are all in college. This will kind of be an interesting thing for you to look at and really understand, because you all have this in common. So that is SWOT analysis in a quick lecture, and I hope it was helpful. And again, reach out, use me as a resource. That's what we're here for. If you need to set up a Zoom or a meeting, and I'm going to say this every lecture, please do so. That's what we're here for. I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to clarify anything, and I'm happy to work through your subscription box cases, your marketing plans with you. Reach out. Don't be a stranger. We will see you soon. On that note, I will see you in the next lecture.